Welcome back to another video. Today we are taking a look at a computer. I know, right? Go figure. The computer that we're looking at today is very special, especially to me personally. You may have seen one at one time or another. Now on the surface, it may look like a pretty bog standard, boring gray and black desktop from the early to mid 2000s. But this one is no ordinary boring PC to me. This one is very special because this is the exact same PC that I used growing up. My family had one of these Dell Dimension PCs that they bought brand new back in 2005. From what I recall from Dell's product page back then, the Dell Dimension 3000 was a fairly low-end system for its time. These usually came spec'd with either an Intel Pentium 4 or an Intel Celeron processor, between 256 and 512 megabytes of RAM, a 40, 60, or 80 gigabyte hard drive, an optional floppy drive, and usually had a pretty standard, ordinary either CDRW burner or one of those DVD combo drives. Our PC that we bought at the time was more on the low end side of things. It had I want to say it was a 3 gigahertz Pentium 4 Prescott chip, which ran super, super hot, which meant that the computer got really, really loud all the time. It had 256 megabytes of RAM, which was okay for Windows XP, but I don't recall it running very well with that amount of memory. It had a 40 gigabyte hard drive, which was pretty much plenty of space for our needs. It came with the optional floppy drive, and it had a bog standard CDRW drive. Not a DVD drive, a CDRW drive. We used our Dell Dimension 3000 up until 2009 or 2010, when we finally upgraded to a Windows 7 PC. Although this PC was still very useful to me well after we upgraded. I convinced my parents not to throw it out so that I could use it for my old retro PC games and retro software. And I pretty much used it exactly for that up until about like 2016, 2017. I was heading off to college at the time, so at that point, the Dell Dimension 3000 sat dormant in our basement for another few years until we finally decided to get rid of it. But I still actually have the original hard drive. I've been kind of in a weird nostalgic mood lately. So when I saw that this Dell Dimension 3000 right here was listed on Goodwill Finds for a fairly decent price, I knew that I just had to buy it. This is going to be so much fun. So let's take a trip down memory lane and fully restore my childhood PC. Out of all the computers that Dell made that I've worked on, this is by far the easiest to get into. All you have to do is pull this tab and pull the side panel off. If I can grip it with one hand. There we go. Simple as that. And honestly, despite its age, it actually doesn't look too bad in here. It's a little bit dusty, of course, but we can definitely clean that up. I always found the cooling solution in these Dell Dimensions really interesting, because basically, instead of having a separate CPU fan and case fan, they decided to use a case fan and then build this like plastic shroud that pulls the air from the processor. It's really interesting. I've never really seen any other PCs do that before. Now, I'm not entirely sure if it was efficient, but that's how Dell did it back then. The only thing I'm worried about is the capacitors on this motherboard, because this was around the time that electronics were suffering from the quote-unquote capacitor plague. And I'd say for the most part they look pretty all right. I did see that one, though, which is in pretty rough shape. And it's right by the memory, too. I think our original Dell Dimension 3000 had that exact same capacitor that was leaking too. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that quite yet. I don't know if I'm just going to pull it or possibly learn how to solder and put in a new one. I don't really know. The good news is I briefly turned this thing on when I first got it, and it does work. So hopefully it's not affected by that. We only have 2 DIMM slots. This uses standard DDR RAM. There is our North Bridge, which also has the integrated graphics, which I believe it was the Intel Extreme Graphics 2, which was actually pretty terrible from what I remember. Although I have to say the biggest sin of all, this thing only has 3 PCI slots. No AGP, no PCI Express. So yeah, you can definitely tell that this was a budget PC. Which means if I want to put a GPU in this thing, we're going to be severely limited by only having PCI slots. I think before we get this thing cleaned up, let's turn it on and show it in action. All right, let's plug this thing in. Oh, I didn't even have to press the power button. It just automatically booted straight up. Cool. There's our BIOS information. It looks like it's a version 1.10A02. Copyright 2004, Dell Computer Corporation. I'm guessing our CMOS battery is probably dead, which I figured it would be. And also this thing didn't come with a hard drive, so this is pretty much the furthest that we can get until we put a hard drive in there. But let's go into the setup utility and check to see what we're working with. So it looks like we've got an Intel Pentium 4 3 gigahertz, which was pretty much the exact same one that we had in our Dell Dimension 3000. It does have a floppy drive as well as 2 optical drives. Looks like we've got 512 megabytes of RAM. There's more information about our processor. It has an 800 megahertz bus speed. I don't know if this is a hyper-threaded Intel Pentium 4 or not. I know for sure that ours that we had back then did not have hyper-threading, so I guess we'll have to see if this one has it or not. Integrated devices, we've got sound, network, mouse, USB emulation, serial port, parallel port, onboard video buffer, whatever that is. System security, obviously there's no BIOS password set, which is really good. Auto power on is disabled, which is kind of odd considering it just booted up on its own. Let's see if we have anything in the system event log. Looks like the most recent activity was back in 2007. It looks like there was a post error, memory size different, and it looks like they must have been changing out the RAM. And then after that, it just reset the BIOS to the original date and time because the CMOS battery was dead. Looks like that's all we have. A pretty basic BIOS, all things considered, even back in 2005. I did mention earlier that I still have the original hard drive to our original Dell Dimension 3000, and and here it is. This was I think it's a 40 gigabyte hard drive. It's by Samsung. It's surprisingly still working perfectly all these years later and still has the original factory shipped Windows XP install. So how about let's just stick this thing in there and see if it boots. I even still have the original drive caddy as well, which is also nice because I do see that they did include another one here, which that'll be nice in case we want to add another hard drive. I do kind of wish that I would have still had the original monitor to our Dell Dimension 3000 because it was one of those CRT monitors, which, you know, for 2005 would have been one of the last manufacturers to include the option for a CRT monitor because majority of companies were using LCD panels. But I do remember that CRT being really, really good quality. Last time I saw it, it was at my parents' house, and honestly, I highly doubt that they still have it, but oh well. All right, let's go back into the BIOS and just make sure that our hard drive is being detected. So, drive configuration. Yep, there it is. Primary master drive is our hard drive. All right. So for boot sequence, I think we have, yep, hard drive is set to primary. So let's boot. Look at that. Holy crap. Oh, shit. I spoke too soon. Oh, well, I mean, it tried to boot, so that's something. Oh, I'm guessing there's probably an issue with the configuration with Windows XP with that original PC, because even though it's the exact same model, Windows XP is a little weird when it comes to drive migration. So worst case scenario, we'll probably have to reinstall Windows, which is totally fine because I do have everything backed up from that original hard drive, so no loss there. Okay, let's try booting into safe mode instead. Nope. Absolutely not. Dang, yeah, I think we're gonna have to reinstall Windows. Which, finding drivers for this thing will be a piece of cake because Dell is pretty good with supplying legacy drivers. The only problem is I don't think I have an install CD for Windows XP Home Edition. I have one for Pro, but not Home. And I don't think this thing originally shipped with Windows XP Pro. I think it was just Home Edition. But in the meantime, let's clean this thing up. Let's blow the dust out and wipe everything down and get this thing looking better than new. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of dust. Woo. That's looking much better. And voila, it's all up and running. So I was still having issues with trying to boot off of that already installed copy of Windows XP on that 40 gigabyte hard drive. So I just stuck an extra 80 gig in there and just did a clean installation. I still have yet to get some of the original Dell pre-installed software working. But for the most part, I got everything pretty much how I want it. God, I love that background. It makes me feel so nostalgic. So I've got some games installed on here that I played a lot in my childhood. We'll play a few and see just how good or how bad that Intel Extreme Graphics 2 is. If I'm remembering correctly, I remember it being not very good. But let's see what this thing can handle. We definitely have to start with one of my favorites. Bicycle board games. Loved this game. Let's play one of my favorites, Sink the Ships. God, I loved this game. Mainly because all the NPCs had their own, unique personalities. And also the fact that it just so happens that you can play against the one and only Clip It from Microsoft, which, fun fact, is officially voiced by Gilbert Godfrey. Yeah, that's right. I'm not joking. I have no idea why, but Clip It is like my favorite character to play against in this game. Yep, exactly. I just love his commentary, and It's still absolutely hilarious to know that Gilbert Godfrey was the official voice for Microsoft Office's former mascot. I love that joke. Get it? Because they got rid of him in later versions of Microsoft Office. Oh, Gilbert Godfrey, rest in peace, you wonderful bastard. Let's move on to another one of my favorites, like Bejeweled 2. Oh, God, the nostalgia. This is like one of my favorite puzzle games of all time. No joke. I honestly will probably never get tired of this game. Like, I will legit play it until the day I die. Ooh, here comes my favorite part. Oh, I love that. I better stop playing this, otherwise this is pretty much all I'm going to record all night. I just love this game so much. Oh yeah, we definitely need to try some Think Tanks on the Dell Dimension. Oh, this was one of my favorite games. All right, let's leave the details on high settings, and we'll do... Let's see if it'll handle 1280 by 1024. I think that might be a little too much for this thing, but let's try it anyway. Oh, that's actually not too bad. We're getting a solid like 30 FPS. It's still playable. I think if we lower the resolution, I think it would definitely be over 60. I know this game also has a pretty devoted fan base. I think there's actually some fan-made servers that are still up for this game. I should definitely find that out, because playing this game online again would be really fun. Oh, no, you don't. No, you're not going to get away from me. Come on. No. No, 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 no. Oh, it's so hard to aim with the trackpad. Come on. Come on. No. Ha! Gotcha. I can definitely hear the fan in the Dell Dimension starting to ramp up. That steaming hot Intel Pentium 4 is struggling. Let's kick things up a notch with something a little more demanding, like Crazy Taxi 3. Oh no. This is already really, really bad. It's so laggy. Oh no. Oh, this is even worse than I thought it was going to be. We've got some like graphical glitches in the background. Oh no. How is it that the original Xbox was able to run this game, but this thing can't? And like the original Xbox had like I think it was like a custom Intel Pentium 3. Yeah, no, I need to stop this. I need to see if there's any graphical settings that we can play around with. Stop! I said stop! Thank you. Alright, let's try 640 by 480. And is there any graphical settings on this menu? I don't think so. I think we need to be in game for that, so... Seriously? No graphical settings? Oh, that's not a good sign. I mean, that's slightly better. Not by much.
Okay, let's kick it.
Okay, let's kick it. Nope, it's just as bad. We're running at like 1 FPS, no matter what settings that we're running at. So, yeah, needless to say, Crazy Taxi 3 is not playable on this thing at all. Oh, yeah. Oh, this game really brings me back. This game was like a super shitty Need for Speed clone, but I absolutely loved this game growing up for some reason, and I played it a lot. Oh my god, the controls are absolutely awful. Oh my god. Yup. Exactly how I remember it. God, this game is horrible, but for some reason I kind of love it. Also, for some reason, this game has like a special partnership with Kia. So pretty much all the cars in the game are Kia for some reason. Not entirely sure why. Whoa! Jesus Christ. God, the turning is just... It's like turning on ice, honestly. You know the amazing like sense of speed that the Need for Speed games have? Yeah, you get none of that with Final Drive Fury. Yeah, I find it really hard to believe that a Kia Spectra would be able to top out at over 200 miles an hour. Just, no, absolutely not. And yet we still somehow made second place, despite me not playing this game in almost 2 decades. Now, this computer just barely meets the system requirements for this game. And I remember performance was relatively okay. I had to change everything down to like the lowest settings, and it was mostly playable. So I'm hoping that's the case here. Let's go to our options. Oh, that was pretty laggy. Let's see. I remember we had the resolution at 800 by 600, so the lowest. And then I also remember I had to play the game without 3D acceleration, which we have to restart the game in order for that to apply for some reason. Oh yeah, that's much smoother now. So yeah, we're pretty much running everything at the lowest, so let's see how it handles it. Yeah, it plays exactly as I remember, and honestly, it's actually pretty good. Like I said, if this is all that I had at the time, which I most definitely did when I first played this game, I'd be more than happy. It doesn't look as pretty, but hey, it's playable. That's the most important thing. Now, I wanted to try Unreal Tournament 3 on this thing, but I have a feeling that it would not run at all. I feel like it wouldn't even start, especially with pretty crappy integrated graphics. So we're just going to go with the next best thing. Let's see how good or how bad Unreal Tournament 2004 runs on the Dell Dimension. And judging by the real-time cutscene, actually not too bad. At least so far. Let's play it safe and just have everything at like the medium-ish settings and see what this thing can handle. I didn't get to experience this game until I was a teenager, so technically saying that it was a game I played in my childhood is kind of stretching it a little bit, but hey, it counts. Okay, I mean, that's better than I was expecting. In sections like over here, it seems pretty alright. Let's try turning down the settings. How about we'll do 640 by 480. And then we'll take everything down to the I have never seen a game actually have graphical settings that are like even lower than low. So we've got low, lower, very low, and lowest. I can only imagine what everything at the bare minimum looks like. Let's just do low for now. That's a little bit better. We're playing on a different map. So like in less busy areas like this, it's actually pretty good. But then in bigger areas, it's a little bit laggy, to say the least. Let's see, just for shits and giggles, let's take everything down to the lowest and just see what it looks like. We'll even turn the character shadows off. Yeah, that barely affected our frame rate at all. The game looks like crap now, but pretty much performs the exact same way. You know, if this is all that I had, which I most definitely did when I first played this game, I'd be alright with it. But since I have a way better Windows XP machine to play this game on, yeah, compared to that, this is not the greatest experience, but I have seen worse. Also, what in the heck is going on with these water reflections? Look at that. That is super weird. All right, let's finish things off with running some benchmarks. So I've got a couple of versions of 3D Mark here. I've also got Aquamark 3 and Code Creatures that I want to try. So let's see how it does. Now, I wanted to start with 3D Mark 99 as well as 3D Mark 2000, but neither one of those I could get to work for some reason. So we're just going to start with 2001. I decided to test it with 1024 by 768 default settings. We ended up achieving a score of 3,102 points. So not bad, but not really great either. Moving on to 3D Mark 2003, again at 1024 by 768 default settings. We achieved a final score of 134 points, so pretty terrible, honestly. Running Aquamark 3 at 1024 by 768 got us a score of 3,522 points. So a little bit better, although if you look at the frames per second on average, yeah, not good. I tried running the Code Creatures benchmark, but again, this one refused to work as well. Bummer. I'm not going to lie, this was actually a pretty fun video to make. So that was my childhood PC. Despite it being one of the most unremarkable and mediocre PCs from the 2000s, I still love it. I don't know if it's just my rose-tinted glasses, but despite how utterly crappy this PC was, even back when it was brand new, like, some of my fondest memories using a computer was on one of these. I have so many great memories of playing games with my brother on this PC. And also, this was our first family computer where I got to fully use the internet for the very first time. Like, yeah, we had a Windows 98 PC before this thing that had internet, but I wasn't able to really get into using the World Wide Web for the very first time until we got this computer. And honestly, like, that was such an amazing experience. So I hope you enjoyed this nostalgic endeavor. I know I certainly did. And we'll see you all next time.